It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. These words were spoken nearly 2,000 years ago by a man who began his life as a slave. Epictetus knew suffering intimately. Yet he discovered something that no chain could take away: the freedom of his own mind. In our world of endless notifications, comparison, and noise, we often feel trapped by circumstances we didn't choose. We scroll through other people's lives and feel inadequate. We replay conversations we can't change. We worry about futures we can't control. Epictetus speaks directly to this. His philosophy isn't about positive thinking or pretending everything is fine. It's about recognizing what is genuinely ours and what isn't. Today, through Epictetus's words, we will look honestly at how we live and how we might live differently. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This invites us to consider how often we're already preparing our next words while someone else is still talking. Many of us, myself included, treat conversations as stages for our own thoughts rather than opportunities to truly understand another person. Epictetus suggests that wisdom begins not with clever speech, but with patient attention. When we listen more than we speak, we learn what we didn't know we needed to hear. Perhaps this is why the loneliest people are sometimes the loudest. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. How much energy do we spend curating the appearance of who we want to be? We post about values we don't practice, share quotes we don't live by. Epictetus reminds us that integrity isn't performative. The person you are when no one is watching, that's your actual philosophy. This challenges us to close the gap between our aspirations and our actions, one small choice at a time. He who laughs at himself never runs out of things to laugh at. There's a certain lightness that comes when we stop taking ourselves so seriously. Many of us carry our mistakes like permanent scars, replaying our embarrassments late at night. But Epictetus suggests that self-awareness includes the ability to see our own absurdity with affection. When we can laugh at our contradictions and failures, we free ourselves from the exhausting work of pretending to be perfect. This isn't about dismissing our growth, it's about approaching it with more grace. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. Think about the last time someone's comment ruined your entire day. In that moment, you handed them the remote control to your inner state. Epictetus isn't saying we shouldn't feel anger, he's asking us to notice who we allow to dictate our peace. A stranger's opinion, a colleague's slight, a relative's judgment, these only have the power we grant them. This invites us to ask, who do I want to be in charge of how I feel? First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Most of us know what we want to become, yet we keep waiting for the right moment to start. Epictetus offers a simpler path. Decide first, then act accordingly. This isn't about grandiose declarations or vision boards. It's about the quiet clarity that comes when we stop negotiating with ourselves. Who do you want to be when faced with temptation, disappointment, or opportunity? Answer that, and the daily choices become clearer. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. We live in a culture designed to make us feel insufficient. Every advertisement whispers that happiness is just one purchase away. Yet the hedonic treadmill keeps spinning, the new thing becomes ordinary, and the wanting begins again. Epictetus points to a different kind of abundance, the richness of being content with enough. This doesn't mean rejecting comfort or beauty, but recognizing that desire itself can become a prison. Perhaps true wealth is wanting what you already have. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond that matters. Life will give you exactly 0 guarantees about fairness. You'll be misunderstood, overlooked, and disappointed. These aren't failures of the universe, they're the texture of being human. Epictetus suggests that our power lies not in controlling outcomes, but in choosing our response. This is radical freedom. Even in the worst circumstances, you still own your reaction. The question becomes not, why is this happening, but who will I be in the face of this? If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Growth requires the willingness to be a beginner. Many of us avoid learning new things because we can't tolerate looking incompetent. We'd rather stay comfortable in our expertise than risk the vulnerability of not knowing. Epictetus invites us to embrace the awkwardness of being a student again. Every master was once terrible at their craft. The only way through that stage is through it, foolishness and all. No man is free who is not master of himself. We often think of freedom as the absence of external constraints. But Epictetus points to a deeper captivity, being ruled by your own impulses. The person who can't resist checking their phone, who snaps in anger, who procrastinates endlessly, they aren't free. True liberation comes when you can decide your actions rather than being carried by habit or emotion. This is difficult work, which is why so few people are truly free. The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. We become like the people we spend time with, whether we intend to or not. Their habits seep into ours. Their standards become our normal. Epictetus reminds us that choosing our companions is choosing our future self. This doesn't mean abandoning people who struggle. It means being intentional about who shapes your character. Ask yourself, after spending time with this person, am I closer to who I want to be or further away? Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well. So much of our suffering comes from arguing with reality. We think things should be different than they are. Traffic shouldn't be this bad. People shouldn't be so difficult. Life shouldn't be so unfair. Meanwhile, reality continues exactly as it is, indifferent to our preferences. Epictetus suggests a different approach, acceptance as the starting point for effective action. This isn't resignation, it's seeing clearly before you respond. If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, "He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone." There's a disarming power in not defending yourself. Most of us expend enormous energy managing our reputation, correcting every misperception. Epictetus offers an alternative. Acknowledge your flaws with such honesty that criticism loses its sting. When you're not pretending to be perfect, other people's judgments become less threatening. This is the confidence that comes from knowing yourself fully, shadows and all. If you would be a reader, read. If a writer, write. We complicate simple things. We plan to plan, prepare to prepare, and think about doing instead of doing. Epictetus cuts through the noise. If you want to be something, practice being it. Not someday, not when circumstances align perfectly now, imperfectly. The identity you want is built through action, not intention. We should always be asking ourselves, is this something that is or is not in my control? This question is the foundation of Epictetus's entire philosophy. It's astonishingly simple and endlessly difficult to apply. Other people's opinions? Not in your control. The weather, the economy, your boss's mood? Not in your control. Your effort, your attitude, your integrity? Fully in your control. When we stop wasting energy on what we can't change, we discover how much power we actually have. If someone speaks badly of you, consider whether what they say is true. If it is, correct yourself. If it isn't, laugh at them. Criticism is either useful information or irrelevant noise. Many of us struggle to tell the difference because our ego gets involved. Epictetus offers a practical filter. Is this feedback accurate? If yes, be grateful for the mirror being held up to you. If no, why would you be bothered by something false? This approach transforms criticism from a threat into a tool. Only the educated are free. Epictetus isn't talking about formal schooling or degrees. He means education in the broadest sense, the cultivation of your own mind. An uneducated mind is easily manipulated, swayed by every new trend or opinion. But a person who has trained their thinking can navigate complexity and contradiction. This kind of education is a lifelong practice, not a credential you earn once. It's the difference between being led by the world and leading yourself through it. Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself. We tend to believe we'll rise to the occasion when it matters. But Epictetus suggests that crisis doesn't create character, it exposes what's already there. The habits you practice in easy times are what emerge under pressure. This is why daily discipline matters more than we think. Who you are when it's convenient is who you'll be when it's not. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. There's a beautiful simplicity in this instruction. Focus your energy where it matters and release your grip on everything else. Most of us do the opposite. We obsess over what we can't control and neglect what we can. Epictetus invites us to reverse this tendency. Pour yourself fully into your choices, your effort, your character, and let the outcomes unfold as they will. Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. How much do we borrow from others in building our identity? We adopt opinions we haven't examined, chase goals we don't actually want, perform versions of ourselves for different audiences. Epictetus suggests that authenticity begins with self-knowledge. You can't live truthfully if you don't know who you are beneath the roles and expectations. This is the work of a lifetime, discovering your actual self and having the courage to be it. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. We chain ourselves to outcomes we can't guarantee. We need that promotion, that relationship, that specific future. Epictetus offers a different path. Care deeply about what you can control and release everything else. This doesn't mean not wanting things. It means not making your peace conditional on getting them. True freedom is wanting what you choose to want, not being enslaved by external results. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Gratitude isn't just a nice feeling, it's a practice that reshapes perception. We're wired to notice what's missing, to scan for threats and deficiencies. Epictetus invites us to deliberately redirect that attention toward what's already here, not as a denial of genuine problems, but as a counterbalance to our negativity bias. What changes when you inventory your gifts as carefully as your grievances? People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. Two people experience the same event entirely differently. One sees opportunity, the other sees disaster. The difference isn't the event itself, but the interpretation. Epictetus reminds us that we're constantly telling ourselves stories about what things mean. These stories feel like truth, but they're often just one possible perspective. When you change the story, you change your experience not by denying reality, but by seeing it more accurately. Attach yourself to what is spiritually superior, regardless of what other people think or do. Hold to your true aspirations no matter what is going on around you. There's immense pressure to conform, to go along, to not stand out too much. Many of us abandon our deeper values for the comfort of fitting in. Epictetus challenges us to stay loyal to what we know is right, even when it's lonely. This doesn't mean being rigid or judgmental of others. It means not betraying yourself for approval. Your character is the one thing that's genuinely yours. Compromising it for external validation is a bad trade. When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger. Judgment of others is often projection. The flaws that irritate us most in other people are frequently ones we possess ourselves. Epictetus suggests using our annoyance as a mirror. What does this reveal about me? This practice transforms irritation into self-knowledge. It's humbling, yes, but also liberating, because fixing your own failings is actually within your power. If you wish to be good, first believe that you are bad. Growth begins with honesty about where you actually are. Many of us protect our self-image so fiercely that we can't acknowledge our shortcomings. But Epictetus says, own your flaws completely. Not to wallow in shame, but because you can't fix what you won't admit. This is the paradox of self-improvement. It starts with radical acceptance of your current imperfection. To accuse others for one's own misfortunes is a sign of want of education. To accuse oneself shows that one's education has begun. To accuse neither oneself nor others shows that one's education is complete. There are 3 stages here, each progressively wiser. First, we blame the world for our problems, classic victimhood. Then we take responsibility, sometimes too much, turning everything into our fault. Finally, we see clearly. Some things are within our control, some aren't, and assigning blame is less useful than responding skillfully. This mature perspective sees circumstances without melodrama, which frees energy for effective action. Difficulty shows what men are. Easy times reveal very little about character. Anyone can be kind, patient, and principled when life is comfortable. But Epictetus points to adversity as the true test. How do you treat people when you're stressed? Do your values hold when they're costly? Challenges don't build character from scratch. They reveal and strengthen what's already being practiced. If you want something good, get it from yourself. We constantly look outside ourselves for what can only come from within. Validation, purpose, peace. We think these will arrive through achievement or other people. Epictetus redirects us. The good you seek is already available internally. Not through magical thinking, but through cultivating the qualities you admire. Want peace? Practice releasing what you can't control. Want confidence? Build competence and integrity. The source is you. If you do not wish to be prone to anger, do not feed the habit. Give it nothing, which may tend to its increase. Habits are fed by repetition, whether we notice it or not. Every time we indulge anger, we strengthen that neural pathway. Epictetus offers a simple strategy. Starve what you don't want to grow. Don't rehearse your grievances. Don't nurse your resentments. Don't justify your rage. This isn't suppression, it's choosing not to fertilize destructive patterns. What you don't feed eventually weakens. The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. Skillful pilots gain their reputation from storms and tempests. We avoid difficulty as though it's purely negative. But Epictetus suggests that challenges are opportunities for excellence. Your character is forged in resistance, not comfort. No one becomes skilled by practicing only easy things. This doesn't mean seeking suffering, but recognizing that when it arrives, it brings the possibility of growth. The storm isn't the enemy of the journey. Sometimes it is the journey. Seek not the good in external things. Seek it in yourselves. External validation is conditional and temporary. Someone likes you until they don't. Success lasts until it fades. Epictetus points to a more stable source of worth: internal cultivation. Are you becoming more patient, more wise, more generous? These qualities can't be taken from you by changing circumstances. This is the good that lasts because it's self-generated. The essence of philosophy is that a man should so live that his happiness shall depend as little as possible on external things. Most of us outsource our well-being to factors we don't control. We'll be happy when we get the job, the partner, the achievement. Meanwhile, happiness remains perpetually out of reach because external things are unstable. Epictetus challenges us to relocate our peace to internal sources, our choices, our character, our perspective. This isn't about not caring, it's about not being held hostage. A ship should not ride on a single anchor, nor life on a single hope. Fragility comes from over-attachment to one outcome. We stake everything on one relationship, one career path, one version of the future. When it doesn't work out, we're devastated. Epictetus suggests diversifying not just your investments, but your sources of meaning and resilience. This doesn't mean not caring deeply. It means building multiple anchors so you're not destroyed when one fails. There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. Anxiety thrives on the impossible task of controlling the uncontrollable. We worry about what people think, whether we'll get what we want, what might go wrong. None of this worry makes outcomes more favorable, it only makes the present miserable. Epictetus offers a path out, radical acceptance of what's not yours to control. Do your best, then release your grip on results. The peace you seek is found in that release. First, learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak. We often speak before we think, repeating phrases we haven't examined. We claim values we don't embody, make promises we don't keep. Epictetus calls us to integrity between language and understanding. Before you declare something, do you actually know what it means? Before you commit, do you understand what you're agreeing to? This slower, more deliberate approach to speech builds trust and clarity. When you have decided that a thing ought to be done and are doing it, never avoid being seen doing it, though the many shall form an unfavorable opinion about it. There's a particular cowardice in doing what's right only when no one's watching, or only when it will be praised. Epictetus challenges us to act according to our principles regardless of audience or approval. If you believe something is right, do it openly. Let others judge as they will. Their opinion doesn't change whether your action is correct. This is the integrity that stands firm even under scrutiny. Other people's views and troubles can be contagious. Don't sabotage yourself by unwittingly adopting negative, unproductive attitudes through your associations with others. Mood and mindset spread like viruses. Spend time with complainers, and you'll start complaining. Surround yourself with cynicism, and idealism becomes difficult. Epictetus reminds us to be selective about whose energy we absorb. This isn't about avoiding people who struggle, it's about protecting your own clarity from those who drain it without offering anything constructive in return. Be careful to leave your sons well instructed rather than rich, for the hopes of the instructed are better than the wealth of the ignorant. What do we actually pass on to the next generation? Money can be lost, spent, stolen. But wisdom, character, and critical thinking become part of who someone is. Epictetus suggests that investing in someone's development is more valuable than any inheritance. This applies not just to children, but to anyone we mentor or influence. The legacy that lasts is internal, not external. Don't be concerned with other people's impressions of you. They are dazzled and deluded by appearances. Stick with your purpose. Most people are too caught up in their own concerns to think about you as much as you fear. And when they do judge, they're often projecting their own insecurities. Epictetus cuts through the noise. Stay focused on what you know is right. Let others be dazzled by surfaces while you build substance. Your purpose doesn't require popular approval to be valid. The flourishing life cannot be achieved until we moderate our desires and see how superficial they are. Desire is a bottomless well. As soon as one want is satisfied, another emerges. Epictetus isn't saying to want nothing, he's saying to examine what you want and why. How many desires are genuinely yours versus absorbed from culture? How many promise fulfillment, but deliver only temporary pleasure? A flourishing life comes not from satisfying every desire, but from cultivating desires worth having. If evil be said of thee, and if it be true, correct thyself. If it be a lie, laugh at it. This echoes his earlier wisdom but deserves repetition because we forget it constantly. When someone speaks badly of you, you have two paths: improvement or indifference. If the criticism is accurate, gratitude is more useful than defensiveness. If it's false, why let fiction upset you? This framework removes the emotional charge from being criticized, turning it into simple information processing. If you wish your children and your wife and your friends to live forever, you are silly, for you wish to be in control of things which you cannot. Love makes us want to protect those we care about from all harm. But Epictetus reminds us that we can't guarantee anyone's safety, including our own. This isn't pessimism, it's realism that paradoxically allows deeper love. When you accept that loss is inevitable, you can be fully present now without the anxiety of trying to control the uncontrollable. Love them today, because today is all anyone truly has. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the principles and notions which they form concerning things. Your beliefs about reality shape your experience more than reality itself. Two people lose a job. One sees catastrophe, the other sees possibility. The difference is the principle they apply to the situation. Epictetus invites us to examine our operating principles. Are they serving us? Are they even true? Often, our suffering comes from outdated beliefs we've never questioned. Freedom is not procured by a full enjoyment of what is desired, but by controlling the desire. Consumer culture promises freedom through acquisition. Buy this, experience that, achieve the other. But Epictetus points to the opposite path. You're free when your happiness doesn't depend on getting everything you want. This doesn't mean wanting nothing, it means not being controlled by wanting. The person who needs very little is richer than the one who needs everything. What concerns me is not the way things are, but rather the way people think things are. Perception creates our world more than we realize. Events happen, but meaning is assigned by interpretation. Epictetus spent his life helping people adjust their thinking to align with reality. Not positive thinking that denies problems, but accurate thinking that sees clearly. When your thoughts reflect truth rather than distortion, appropriate action becomes obvious. If one oversteps the bounds of moderation, the greatest pleasures cease to please. End quote. Excess kills enjoyment. The dessert that delights in moderation becomes nauseating in abundance. Rest is restorative until it becomes lethargy. Epictetus understood that pleasure has a sweet spot, and beyond it lies diminishing returns. This is why restraint isn't the enemy of enjoyment, it's often what makes enjoyment possible. The disciplined person experiences more pleasure, not less. If you tell me I have lost a leg, I will answer, my leg, not me. Our identity gets tangled with circumstances, possessions, even our bodies. When we lose something external, we feel like we've lost ourselves. Epictetus makes a radical distinction. You are not your conditions. You are the awareness that experiences conditions. This doesn't minimize loss, it locates your core self in something unchangeable. What remains when everything else is stripped away? That's who you actually are. A half-hearted spirit has no power. Tentative efforts lead to tentative outcomes. Commitment unlocks results that hedging can't achieve. When you hold back, protecting yourself from full investment, you guarantee mediocre outcomes. Epictetus challenges us to go all in when we've decided something matters. Not recklessly, but with the understanding that excellence requires unreserved effort. Half measures produce half lives. Imagine for yourself a character, a model personality whose example you determine to follow, in private as well as in public. Having a standard outside yourself provides valuable perspective. Many of us lack a clear picture of who we want to become, so we drift. Epictetus suggests choosing someone real or ideal who embodies qualities you admire. Then, in moments of decision, ask, what would they do? This isn't imitation, but using a model to clarify your own values. Over time, you become your own model. The wise man is not the one who gives the correct answers, but the one who asks the correct questions. Questions open possibility, answers close it. Much of Epictetus's philosophy is about learning to ask better questions. Not, why did this happen to me, but how can I respond well? Not, how do I get what I want, but what do I actually need? The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. This is wisdom, knowing what to ask and when. The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. This is the central paradox of the human condition. We give our power away by caring too much about what we can't influence. Your boss's opinion, your neighbor's success, whether it rains tomorrow, all beyond your reach. Yet we structure entire lives around these variables. Epictetus invites us to reverse this. Invest fully in what's yours, your effort, your character, your response, and hold everything else lightly. This is where actual power lives. Caretake this moment. Immerse yourself in its particulars. Respond to this person, this challenge, this deed. Quit evasions. Stop giving yourself needless trouble. How often are we anywhere but here? We're mentally rehearsing future conversations or replaying past ones while life unfolds in front of us. Epictetus calls us back to the only time we actually inhabit, now. This moment contains everything you need to work with. The rest is imagination and memory, useful but not real. What if you gave this moment your full attention instead of fragments? You are a little soul carrying around a corpse. This stark image reminds us of our dual nature. We are not primarily bodies with thoughts, we're consciousness temporarily housed in flesh. The body will age, fail, and eventually stop. This isn't morbid, it's perspective. When you remember that the physical is temporary, you stop over-identifying with its limitations and pleasures. What you cultivate internally is what matters, because it's the only part that's genuinely you. Events themselves are neutral. Our interpretations create suffering or peace. Rain ruins one person's day and brings relief to another. The rain itself has no opinion about either response. Epictetus points to the space between stimulus and response, where interpretation happens. This space is your freedom. You can't always choose what happens, but you can choose what it means. This isn't denial, it's recognizing that your mind adds layers of meaning that aren't inherent to events themselves. No person is free who is not master of themselves. We already explored this earlier, but Epictetus's repetition of core themes reflects how central they are. True freedom has nothing to do with external circumstances. A slave can be free if they govern their own mind and choices. A king can be enslaved by desires and fears. The question is always, who's in charge of your internal state? Until you are, you're not free, regardless of your external conditions. When something happens, the only thing in your power is your attitude toward it. You can either accept it or resent it. Resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It corrodes you while changing nothing about the situation. Acceptance doesn't mean approval, it means acknowledging reality as it is. From that clear-eyed place, you can respond effectively. Resentment clouds judgment and prolongs suffering. Epictetus offers the simpler path. See clearly, accept what is, then act. Demand not that events should happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do happen, and your life will be serene. This is one of Epictetus's most challenging teachings because it seems like giving up. But there's a difference between passive resignation and active acceptance. You can still work toward change while accepting the current reality. The serenity comes from not being at war with what is. When you stop insisting reality be different than it is, you free enormous energy for effective action. Whoever does wrong, wrongs himself. Whoever does an injustice, does it to himself. Every action shapes the actor. When you lie, you become more of a liar. When you act cruelly, you cultivate cruelty in yourself. Epictetus reminds us that we can't damage others without damaging ourselves first. The person you become through your actions is the real consequence, more than any external result. This is why integrity matters not for reputation, but for self-preservation. A podium and a prison is each a place, one high and the other low. But in either place, your freedom of choice can be maintained if you so wish. External conditions don't determine your internal freedom. You can be celebrated and miserable, imprisoned and serene. Epictetus lived this truth, a slave who was freer than most free men because he owned his mind. The location doesn't matter, the quality of your thinking does. This is why some people find peace in the worst circumstances, while others suffer in luxury. Freedom is portable because it's internal. Progress is not achieved by luck or accident, but by working on yourself daily. We want transformation to be dramatic and sudden. But Epictetus points to the unglamorous truth. Excellence is built through small, consistent choices. No single workout transforms your body, but a year of them does. No single conversation builds a relationship, but years of them do. The question isn't whether today matters, it's whether you're moving in the right direction, one choice at a time. Keep your attention focused entirely on what is truly your own concern, and be clear that what belongs to others is their business and none of yours. How much energy do we waste minding other people's business? Judging their choices, worrying about their opinions, trying to control their behavior. Epictetus draws a firm boundary. Stay in your lane. This isn't indifference to others, it's recognizing that everyone's responsible for their own choices. When you stop trying to manage other people's lives, you discover how much work your own requires. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Unquote. This might be Epictetus's most important teaching, condensed into one statement. All of philosophy, all of personal development, comes down to this distinction. Your mind is your domain. How you think, what you value, how you interpret. Everything else is the world doing what it does. When you truly internalize this, helplessness transforms into agency. You may not control outcomes, but you always control your response. Curb your desire. Don't set your heart on so many things, and you will get what you need. Need and want blur in modern life. We think we need the new phone, the bigger house, the perfect relationship. But Epictetus distinguishes between genuine needs and conditioned desires. When you reduce the latter, life becomes simpler and more satisfying. This isn't deprivation, it's liberation from the tyranny of endless wanting. Less desire means less suffering, paradoxically, creating space for deeper enjoyment of what you have. I laugh at those who think they can damage me. They do not know who I am. They do not know what I think. They cannot even touch the things which are really mine and with which I live. There's a fierce independence in this statement. When you locate your worth internally, external attacks become irrelevant. They can take your possessions, damage your reputation, even harm your body. But they can't touch your character, your choices, your perspective, unless you let them. Epictetus invites us to become so grounded in what's genuinely ours that external opinions lose their power. Tentative efforts lead to tentative outcomes. Therefore, give yourself fully to your endeavors. Decide to construct your character through excellent actions and determine to pay the price of a worthy goal. Half-hearted commitment produces half-hearted results. You can't succeed significantly at something you only partly attempt. Epictetus calls for total investment when you've chosen your path. This doesn't mean never changing direction, it means not hedging while you're on it. Excellence requires the willingness to go all in, knowing you might fail, but refusing to fail because you didn't try. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Life will hand you exactly what it hands you, not what you prefer. You don't get to vote on your starting conditions, your losses, your disappointments. But Epictetus identifies the one vote you always have, your response. This single choice determines whether circumstances destroy you or develop you. It's not about positive thinking, it's about recognizing where your agency actually lives. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. Certainty is the enemy of learning. When you're convinced you already understand something, new information can't enter. Epictetus suggests that wisdom begins with intellectual humility. I might be wrong. This openness isn't weakness, it's the only stance that allows growth. The smartest people are those who remain curious about what they don't know, including what they think they do. The beginning of philosophy is the recognition of one's own weakness and incapacity. We want to start from strength, competence, knowing. But Epictetus says wisdom starts with the opposite, acknowledging how little we know and how flawed we are. This isn't self-flagellation, it's honest assessment. When you admit your weaknesses, you can work on them. When you pretend competence, you remain stuck in incompetence. The path to strength runs through the admission of weakness. Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. We tend to do the opposite, harsh with others, lenient with ourselves. We explain away our own failings while judging others harshly. Epictetus suggests reversing this. Give others grace. Hold yourself accountable. Others are fighting battles you can't see. Extend compassion. But for yourself, maintain high standards. You know your own excuses and rationalizations. This asymmetry builds both character and kindness. Don't seek to have events happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do happen, and all will be well. This teaching appears multiple times in Epictetus because it's so counterintuitive and so powerful. We're trained to want things to be different than they are. But peace comes from aligning your wishes with reality, not forcing reality to align with your wishes. This doesn't mean not having preferences or goals. It means not making your well-being conditional on getting them. Want what is, work toward what could be, and you'll be fine either way. If someone speaks badly of you, consider if what they say is true. If it is, improve yourself. If it isn't, it has nothing to do with you. End quote. Criticism is either useful feedback or irrelevant noise. The emotionally mature person can tell the difference. If the critique is accurate, it's a gift now, you know what to work on. If it's inaccurate, it says more about the speaker than about you. Either way, there's no need for defensiveness or shame. Just data to evaluate and either use or dismiss. To live a good life, we have the potential for it if we can learn to be indifferent to what makes no difference. So much of what we agonize over genuinely doesn't matter. The color of your car, the trending topic, what that person said at the party. These things consume attention but contribute nothing to a life well lived. Epictetus challenges us to distinguish between what actually matters and what's just noise. When you become indifferent to trivia, you free up capacity for what's genuinely important. The good life requires this discernment. Small-minded people blame others. Average people blame themselves. The wise see all blame as foolishness. Blame is almost always a waste of energy. It doesn't fix problems. It just assigns responsibility for them. Epictetus moves through 3 stages: external blame, internal blame, and finally, transcending blame altogether. The wise person sees situations clearly without the distortion that blame creates. They focus on response, not responsibility for past events. What happened, happened. What matters now is what you do next. Your happiness depends on 3 things, all of which are within your power: your will, your ideas concerning the events in which you are involved, and the use you make of your ideas. These 3 elements form the architecture of your inner life. Your will, what you choose to do. Your ideas, how you interpret events. Your use of ideas, how you apply your interpretations. Epictetus locates happiness entirely within this internal system, not in external outcomes. This isn't denial of reality, it's recognition that your experience of reality is determined by these 3 factors you control. Man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems. Most suffering is anticipatory. We're not dealing with the actual problem, but with our fears about how bad it might be. Epictetus points out that this imaginative suffering is optional. The real problem, when it arrives, is usually more manageable than the versions we created in our minds. And all that time spent worrying? It solved nothing and just made us miserable in advance. Stay with what's actually happening, not with fantasies about what might. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. External events are neutral until we evaluate them. Someone cuts you off in traffic, that's just a car changing lanes. You add, "They're disrespectful," or "This always happens to me," and suddenly you're upset. Epictetus reminds you that the evaluation is optional. You can choose a different interpretation at any time. The power to reframe is always available, which means your peace is never truly at the mercy of external events. The trials we endure introduce us to our strengths. You don't know what you're capable of until you're tested. Comfort reveals nothing about character. Difficulty reveals everything. Epictetus suggests viewing challenges as opportunities for self-discovery. That hardship you're facing, it's showing you resources you didn't know you had. This doesn't make suffering pleasant, but it does make it purposeful. Every trial is a chance to meet yourself more fully. Nature gave us 1 tongue and 2 ears so we could hear twice as much as we speak. This mirrors his earlier teaching about listening, emphasizing its importance through repetition. We're designed to take in more than we put out. Yet most conversations are just alternating monologues, each person waiting for their turn to talk. Epictetus points to a different way. Listen deeply, speak sparingly. You learn nothing while talking, you already know what you're saying. But in listening, you access knowledge you don't possess. Authentic happiness is always independent of external conditions. Conditional happiness is fragile. I'll be happy when I get promoted, when I find love, when I retire. But Epictetus points to a happiness that doesn't depend on circumstances aligning. This comes from internal cultivation, wisdom, virtue, perspective. It's not that external goods don't matter, it's that they can't be the foundation. Build your well-being on what you control, and external conditions become enhancers rather than requirements. In prosperity, it is very easy to find a friend, but in adversity, it is the most difficult of all things. Fair weather friends disappear when storms arrive. This is one of adversity's gifts. It shows you who's really in your corner. Epictetus doesn't say this bitterly, it's just observation. Many relationships are transactional or convenient, and that's okay to recognize. But the few who stay when things get hard, those are your actual people. Difficulty is an excellent sorting mechanism. To make anything a habit, do it. To not make it a habit, do not do it. To unmake a habit, do something else in place of it. Habit formation is beautifully simple in principle. Repetition creates patterns. Abstaining prevents them. Replacement changes them. The difficulty isn't intellectual, it's volitional. Epictetus strips away all the complexity. Want to build a habit? Repeat it. Epictetus. Want to break one? Stop doing it, or substitute something else. No tricks, no hacks, just consistent action over time. Control your perceptions. Direct your actions properly. Willingly accept what's outside your control. This is Epictetus's three-part formula for life. First, manage how you see things. Your interpretations create your experience. Second, behave according to your values. Let your actions reflect your principles. Third, accept what you can't change. Release resistance to reality. Everything else is elaboration on these three practices. Master them, and you've mastered yourself. The condition and characteristic of a philosopher is that he looks to himself for all help or harm. Self-reliance here doesn't mean isolation or refusing help. It means recognizing that your well-being ultimately comes from within. Others can support or hinder you externally, but your internal state is your responsibility. Epictetus reminds us that looking outward for salvation is a dead end. The help you need, you must provide yourself through right thinking and right action. Attach yourself to what is spiritually superior, regardless of what other people think or do. Peer pressure doesn't end in adolescence. It just becomes more subtle. We modify our values to fit in, soften our standards to avoid conflict. Epictetus challenges us to remain loyal to what we know is right, even alone. This isn't self-righteousness, it's integrity under social pressure. The crowd is often wrong, and going along with them corrupts your character. Stand with what's true, regardless of who stands with you. When you close your doors and make darkness within, remember never to say that you are alone. You are not alone, for God is within. Whether you interpret this literally or metaphorically, the message remains powerful. You're never truly alone because you have your own consciousness, your own inner life. Many people fear solitude because they don't enjoy their own company. But Epictetus suggests that solitude is where you meet the deepest part of yourself. This internal presence is constant, unlike external companions. Learning to be alone well is learning to be with yourself. Until we have begun to go without them, we fail to realize how unnecessary many things are. Comfort expands to fill the available space. We accumulate possessions, habits, and dependencies we never actually needed. Only when they're removed do we discover we're fine without them. Epictetus advocates for voluntary simplicity. Practice going without before you're forced to. This builds resilience and reveals how little you actually require. Liberation comes from needing less, not having more. When you are offended at any person's fault, immediately turn to yourself and reflect in what manner you yourself have erred. Judgment is usually projection. What irritates us in others often exists in ourselves, unacknowledged. Epictetus offers a transformative practice. Use your irritation as a mirror. Instead of focusing on their flaw, investigate your own. This converts annoyance into self-awareness and humility into wisdom. Plus, you can actually fix your own problems, unlike theirs. Each of us is a product of our thoughts. What we think about and focus on shapes who we become. Your mind is constantly running programs that determine your behavior. Dwell on grievances, and you become bitter. Focus on gratitude, and you become content. Epictetus understood what neuroscience now confirms. Attention shapes the brain. You are, quite literally, what you repeatedly think about. This means you have enormous power over who you become, simply by directing your thoughts. He who is not a good servant will not be a good master. Leadership requires understanding what it's like to follow. You can't lead well if you've never learned to serve, to take direction, to work within constraints. Epictetus points to a progression. First, learn obedience to principles, then you can guide others toward them. The best leaders remember what it's like to be on the other side. This creates empathy and effectiveness that pure authority never achieves. To know that you do not know is the best. To think you know when you do not is a disease. Intellectual humility versus false certainty. One opens you to learning, the other closes you off. Epictetus diagnoses overconfidence as an illness because it prevents growth and leads to poor decisions. The wisest people are those who know the boundaries of their knowledge. They're comfortable saying, "I don't know," because they're secure enough not to pretend expertise they lack. Ignorance acknowledged is halfway to wisdom. Perhaps you're listening to this in your room right now, or maybe you're on a bus watching the city pass by. Maybe you're walking outside, feeling the air on your skin, or lying in bed as the day ends. Wherever you are, Epictetus would remind you that this moment is the only one you truly have. Not the past you keep reviewing or the future you keep rehearsing, but this one right here. His words aren't meant to be collected like souvenirs. They're meant to be tested, lived, embodied in the choices you make when no one's watching. You don't need to remember everything you've heard today. Maybe one idea caught you, something that resonated with where you are right now. That's enough. Which city are these words reaching you in right now? Are you listening from your room, on a bus or train, walking through the city, or lying awake somewhere quiet? Take that one thing and sit with it. Let it settle. Notice what it reveals about how you've been living and how you might live differently. Epictetus started his life with nothing, not even his own freedom. Yet he discovered something no one could take from him: the power to choose his response, his character, his inner state. You have that same power. You've always had it. The question he would ask you is simple: what will you do with it? Thank you for listening. This is Life Wisdom.